That's going to happen for all of you who are make $1 million business owners. We are going to have a homecoming of sorts. That's what we're calling it anyway. In New York, we're just waiting to confirm the dates, either late June or the middle of July. It will be at Barnard College, and we're going to have a competition, but we are also going to do a whole Business Leadership Institute and homecoming for people who are involved in the program already, and new people can come too. You can compete if you haven't done that, and I'll explain how you do that. But a real opportunity to catch up with everybody and really talk to folks who are at the $1 million mark or more, and what kind of connections, skill sets, information they need. So just stay tuned for that. I think it will be very exciting. American Express is going to do that with us. So that will be June or July. We'll just do June, okay. Yeah, whatever. We are also doing quite a bit of work with Walmart and Sam's Club. And it is a whole other level of scale and opportunity in terms of the things that they need and they require. I had the opportunity to help them develop their global Women's Economic Empowerment Program. What it means for American women-owned businesses. It was launched in September. They plan to spend $20 billion for women-owned businesses in the next 5 years. Last year they spent $2 billion. So there is a big opportunity. And there are opportunities at a whole lot of levels, because it's not just selling product in their stores, it's providing services for them, it's partnering with bigger suppliers. There are a lot of opportunities. From the day that I spoke at the launch of this in Bentonville, Arkansas, there was a woman who showed up in the afternoon to meet with the president of Walmart. He was on the panel with me when we were describing why Walmart is doing this. And Walmart is doing it because they have 200 million customers a week globally, and 83% of them are women. And they finally dawned on them that women were going to need to have money in their pockets if and they need to help with that because we're their biggest customer. So it was fascinating to watch the largest retailer in the world finally understand that 75% of their employees are women, 80% of their customers are women, and what are they doing for us? And yes, and this is a very ambitious program. No one has ever made this kind of commitment, because to spend $2 billion with women, it means they're working with 2,000 women-owned businesses. To go to $20 billion, you need to increase those numbers. And there really aren't that many women who function. This woman, so I'm telling the story. So the day we have this press conference in the morning, it's fascinating. I'm there with the president of Walmart, myself, the woman who runs CARE International, because they're doing a lot of international work. They're doing fascinating international work with about 500,000 farmers, women farmers in China and India. It's a very, very comprehensive program. A good start, and all the other big companies sell through there, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, all those folks, so they're having to get in line and start to do this stuff, because as they have a whole sustainability program, they're now going to have a checklist about what they're doing with women. The suppliers, Coke, Unilever, Procter & Gamble. So it's a big play, I think, for us, and a number of opportunities. But so this woman comes in who does about $300 million worth of business. She's one of their 5 biggest vendors, and she says, you know, can you tell me, she says to the president, well, can you tell me if there are any organizations that actually help women grow businesses? And he fishes the press kit out of the trash, because he's the president of a major company. He probably, does the thing, throws it away. And he says, well, I just did this, press conference, and there's this group called Count Me In, and, maybe you want to, so she takes the papers, makes a very generous contribution to Count Me In, and then I met her in January. And it is fascinating, and she will be speaking. We're doing an event with Sam's Club in Los Angeles in May, which all of this will be on the website. It's in May, I think it's May 10th and 11th. She is going to be a featured speaker. It is fascinating to listen to a woman who does that volume of business. She's looking for a chocolate maker, by the way. So we should, I'm thinking of it as I'm looking at you. Pardon me? Okay, good, because it definitely, she has so understood what we are doing. This woman's name is Ariella. And she's already hired 3 or 4 Make $100 Million business winners to do work with her. Because what she recognizes is she's figured out how to get really big. She manufactures, these numbers totally blow my mind, 100,000 dozen bras a week somewhere in China. 100,000 dozen bras. And she recognizes that there aren't a lot of companies, male or female, that are going to get as big as she is. So how does she help more women get in the game, whether it's as, you know, a supplier to her, or I know Julie Goldman, who does the Original Runner Company, she met her the other day and she's hired her to do all the runners at all her fashion shows, because she does a lot of lingerie fashion shows. She has a brand called Smart and Sexy. And so I'm seeing a whole other side of opportunity from both a retail and a service perspective. And I mean all the things that you're describing. I mean, recruiting, Walmart needs something like 500,000 new employees in the next 2 years. As they expand globally. So and they have really decided that they are going to look to women-owned businesses to start to do this work. I know there's an opportunity for you, but I just don't know what it is yet. This woman sort of figures it out, and she's sort of adopted us. So that's another very good. She's both a funder and someone who I think, she has 8 children. Her children are now, most of them are grown, so that she has decided that what she wants to do now, in addition to run this company, is help other women move along. So we have a very interesting new partner, and the combination with Walmart and Sam's Club is really actually fascinating, because they value her so much. She says she learns stuff from us, and she goes and tells them, and it's coming from one of their bigger vendors, so it's a whole different thing from it's coming from, you know, this relatively, you know, minor not-for-profit that they also support and work with very generously, by the way. Her name is Ariella Hawk. She's a very interesting character. Her brand is Smart and Sexy. She has figured out how to make very beautiful. I mean, it's sort of like Victoria's Secrets meets, for those of you who are all Fredericks of Hollywood. Remember that, you know, on the back of all the magazines, the very sexy lingerie, the naughty lingerie. She makes a version of that she sells at Walmarts around the world for under $10. So it's a whole other play of volume and scale that's just fascinating, and gets letters from women all the time who said, I've, you know, never been able to afford a lace bra, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so it's very nice. So the homecoming, the whatever. The other thing that we are going to be launching a new webinar series in March. We're going to be looking at some issues of content for free and paying for content, because we are finding that people are coming to us with much more in-depth things. Particularly, we had recently somebody showed us something on pricing that we think might be very helpful for everyone, about how to price your own time, as well as pricing your products and your services. Because I think, who has questions about pricing ever? All the time, right? Right. And is it pricing about, just give me an example.
Yeah, my own time.
Pricing your own time, okay.
In addition to the product that I'm selling, but then giving away ideas for free, should I be charging for that?
How long have you been in the business, Jan?
15 years.
Okay, yes. You can stop giving away for free.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the biggest challenges for women, is this issue of pricing. I think some of us, myself included, are still so grateful to be doing what we're doing that we, you know, and where's Linda Russell? Linda Russell said something so profound today. She said that when she thinks about doing things rather than hiring somebody, it's because she assumes that she doesn't have to pay you. You don't have to pay yourself. So, and I think that's often the thought. And I think it's extremely important. We're going to put out some stuff on pricing. We're going to do a whole series on pricing to really help us maximize, because we're all out there working very hard. And I really sense, I don't know if you sense it out here, I think it's even stronger here, the economy's coming back. something's coming back. Some parts of it are. And how are we going to fit in and take advantage of that and build our companies and also have enough money in our pocket to really justify the time and energy that goes into it? And I just like to get another sense on pricing. So giving stuff away for free, what is it for you?
Just the pricing of a product that is in the marketplace represented very broadly. So I sell local, seasonal, organic, high quality ingredients, and then my competitors might sell things that they bought, frozen from Sam's Club.
So
or something,
why don't you charge more?
Well, we do. We try to, but we're still not even charging enough because there's not enough value placed on that yet. So sometimes it's a challenge about the marketplace and being able to charge for a product, like a premium product. A lot of people have a lot of other options to not have the premium product.
I think one of the things that we need to do in that case is to figure out if you were to charge what and for some of us we've got to write these numbers down because we don't dare say them because it's like too scary, but however you get that. If you were to charge what it really costs and what you think it's worth, do you develop a client base that appreciates what you're selling and your margins are going to be higher, so maybe you don't do the other business?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes.
Because that's, I think, some of the decision making that goes into this is where do you make the most money? Because I bring up the story of Ariella because Ariella used to make $85 bras. And she literally looked at her business model, which was about scale. And because she had a relationship with Fruit of the Loom and Walmart, she decided that it wasn't worth it to her to make the $85 product. It was more worth it to her to figure out how to make millions of the under $10 product because of what she likes doing, what she figured out, what works for her, and that's what she does. And I think in all of this, you got to pick a spot. Pick a spot. And for a lot of the businesses that are in here, unless you have ambitions to be really huge, and if you do, you got to make sure you come to Los Angeles to hear her and talk to her. And she's very accessible because I don't know of anybody better to sort of, put you on the path to figuring that out. And just listening to her, you would start to understand it. But she made choices about that. I think your choices are different. Your choice is, okay, I'm doing something that is premium, high quality. It's what it ought to be, and makes a difference in all kinds of things. So, I mean, in particular, what we're talking about tonight, and that costs more. So maybe you make more.
Yes, working toward that. It only took about 11 years having my own business to start being able to understand these things. So.
That's okay. You do now.
Yeah.
You do now, and it's worth crunching the numbers. I think it's worth crunching the numbers because this issue of value, both of our own time and the products and services we sell, but I think most importantly to your point about how much do you give away for free, I think there's got to be a point where you can be very charming and very nice and say, it's more sort of upfront talking about the deal than it is about starting to do the work. Because how many of us start doing the work the moment you get a sense that somebody might want to do business with you?
Show a little leg.
Show a little. And I think the trick is figuring out how to show a little leg and not give away the whole store. And I think that is something that we all really need to focus on a little more. How do we get people to the point where they are willing to and ready to pay for what we have been giving away? And often you can't go back with old clients and do it, but you can certainly do it with new clients. We were talking about some of this today. And I think there are strategies about asking people about their budgets, asking people about, what kind of time frame, I don't know, for you, whether it's based on the job they're looking for, you know, and what the salary is, and therefore, you know, commensurately, what do you charge? I don't know what your system is. But my rule of thumb on pricing is until somebody says, I'm not paying it, keep going. Keep going if somebody says, ouch. And you've got to do it in such a way that you don't immediately say, oh, well, I can change it. You can shrink the amount of time it's going to take you to do it. Because it's not just the issue of pricing, it's an issue of time, and particularly for small business, it's an issue of your time. So and I think that's, you know, how much time are you going to spend on it? How many hours of yours is someone buying? Because I also think as we get more experienced, some of the things somebody wants to pay you for really might take you 10 minutes. You know, right now. But it's taken you 20 years to know the phone calls to make in those 10 minutes. And somehow you have to figure out a different way of charging.
It's particularly hard in a market where it feels like it's more competitively situated in a downturn. Well, in a downturn economy too, because you've got all that pressure pushing from below that you didn't have before, because everybody's scrambling. Mm-hmm. And then you have the upper starting to, in some cases, diversify their offerings so they can offer at a lower price. So it starts getting that middle really fat, mm-hmm. right? I always think pricing is a marketing problem. It's a confidence problem, a marketing problem.
So, confidence problem, marketing problem.
It's marketing. It's
You
basic.
think it's marketing?
It's one of the 4 Ps. It's basic.
Yeah.
It's a 4 P of marketing.
But first you have to decide the confidence
Of course.
piece comes in place.
And I was gonna say, and to your point about, you know, how much are you giving away? I have to follow my own advice, and what my husband, who's a very successful salesperson, tells me. He's like, Irma, why don't you just tell stories about how your other clients, how you helped them? That way you're not actually giving them what you would do for them. You're sharing stories about, well, you know, in a situation like this, I had a client who needed this, and then they see the benefit of what it is of working with you.
That is every one of you.
I gotta learn how to do it myself, but you know, that's where your value comes in. Your value comes in as, wait, I've got examples of what I've done, and yours is gonna be different because you're a totally different client, but here's how I made someone else successful.
And I think the trick is, if they like what you say, and they say, how much should you charge them,
Right.
you gotta decide.
I found that with my second location, the pricing.
Kay Woods runs 24/7 childcare, since she forgot to tell you, yes, go ahead.
Sorry about that, but when I opened my second location, pricing was a little easier. It was based on location, and I already identified my client. So once I think it has to start with your client, like you're saying earlier. What is your client? Everybody's not your client. What's your target? And once you form that, it makes it a little easier for you to get to a budgeting purpose so that you can get a profit. Because sometimes we just think about revenue, but it's profit. What keeps you in business. And I think it starts with your type of client.
And this goes to my other piece of advice. I did run a communications company for years, and it wasn't about 2 years into it, I had meetings at Lifetime Television which were making my head spin, because you would go and make these presentations and everybody around the table would, let's just say, I love it, I like it, da, 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 da. And you'd go back 2 weeks later and as if you'd never been there, and they didn't like it. You had moved it forward as discussed. How many people have had this experience? And I had like 3 of these meetings, and I was ready to walk away from a very big contract, because 1 week they liked it, 2 weeks later they didn't like it, and it was just, and it literally was, I like it or I don't like it. What the does that mean? You like it or you don't like it? Is it going to meet your objectives, or is it? Tell me something other than you like it or you don't like it. So I come home, and my brother happens to be over at my home office, and I've come back, and I'm walking away from this contract because people don't make any sense, and he looked at me and said, don't do that. He said, next meeting, I'll go with you. So he went with me. We ended up having a 8-year business relationship from this, but he went with me. And he came to the meetings, much younger than me, whatever. And we came, we left the meeting. He saw how crazy it was. He said, no. He said, just charge him more. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, they don't know what they want. They've already hired you. They continue to want to work with you. Just charge them more. Yeah. So if they want to, and sure enough, we're back like 3 or 4 weeks later, and I said, this is going to cost you, $100,000 more. Because we've given you 3 plans and you keep wanting more, and we're happy to produce them, but you got your 3, and I don't know what. Not a question. Sure. And for the 8 years we worked together, every time we did budgets, we would do them, and then he would double it right before we went in. And they paid it every time. So I do think there is something, I think there's a big thing to this confidence piece. And I think whether it's a woman or a man, you need to check in with someone, particularly when you're negotiating big deals or thinking about pricing and that kind of thing. Talk to people who are confident and successful. And ask them, because my brother was not particularly successful, but he was extremely confident. Bordering on arrogant. But it was just his sense of his own value and his time, and he knew the quality of the work that we had produced already. And so I would say, because what I've been thinking about for the past couple of years, watching everybody struggle in this economy, is this issue of, and I think these are the things that don't change, which is your sense of confidence and your understanding of your value, and then obviously the marketing and all those other things. But getting clear about this, getting clear about it until every customer you have says they won't pay it, which doesn't happen. It's just something that I think is worth thinking about. These are the kinds of things we're going to be talking about this year, because we now have a base of women we now have like 3 or 4 women who are in the Inc. 500 who came through this program, and I know there will be more of them. And I think we've got to keep talking about and figuring out how we keep moving to where we want to go. Everybody doesn't have to be big, but are you making the money you want to make? Are you getting, value out of what you're doing for yourselves and your families? Are you building a business that you can sell? What are you doing other than surviving on a day-to-day basis that's going to make a difference for you and your family? Whether it's 2 years from now or 10 years from now, how are you doing that? Because I think that's part of, the whole community of women business owners is maturing enough that we can really start to talk about those things and work on those things together so that we can make a lasting impact. I think the subject matter earlier this evening is about a lasting long-term impact on the planet and on the people who live in it. I mean, one of the reasons I got to come out here today is because we got a grant from One Pacific Coast Bank, which used to be the One California Bank, who I know some of you deal with, and they have a 3-prong, that profits, people, and the planet. And I think when you start to think longer term, as much as we're sitting here talking about money and value, if we all had more money and valued ourselves as much as other people actually do, we would have more influence over what happens to people profiting within the planet. So there are a lot of different ways to think about how we get to creating the kind of environment that we want and want to leave to our kids and our nieces, nephews, whoever we're talking about, or an environment that we want to live in. So what I'd like to do, I know we're going to run a little over, but anybody have questions, comments? You want to know how to get involved with Count Me In? I did forget to do that. Go to countmein.org, become sign up. It's free if you haven't already done that. There's an events page that is up, and I know it has information on the LA event. We are literally waiting for one more person to know the dates for this thing, this homecoming and competition. The competition in New York will be a national competition, so if you have friends or people who are here who want to compete, that's going to be, and we may do another one in the fall. We just don't have a date yet. But so there's the summer, and yes.
Well, I wanted to say a piece about the competition.